Hello, welcome back to Deli Yellow. So this is the third video out of the 5 for the sewing course. So in this video we're actually doing a very exciting thing, and we're beginning to learn about patterns, and we're going to create our own pattern for the maxi skirt that we're going to make at the end of this course in video 5. So this video is going to include me teaching you how to make a pattern as well as understand what one means. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is take our measurements, and for this skirt the two measurements that we need is our waist measurement and also the length that we'd like it to be. So for our waist measurement, you literally take your tape measure and you're going to take it around your waist, and it's at the point where the tape measure starts and where you can hold it to, that's the measurement you want to take. We also want to make sure it's nice and straight from the side, and it's where it lines up. So let me show you. So this is the point in which we need to take the measurement from, and as you can see, mine is coming out at around 68 centimeters. For the length of the skirt, what we're going to want to do is measure from our waist all the way down to where we would like it to finish. So in my case, I'd like it to finish near the floor, so maybe around my ankle. That's kind of where I'd like it to finish. So what I'm going to do, if you have someone to help you, this is a bit easier, but if you don't, like me, what you can do is hold it along the side of your leg, and then you can measure where you'd like it to finish at the bottom. There we go. So I just made a note, and then when I come up, this is where it was. So it's on around 98 centimeters. So that's how long I want the skirt, and then how much around my waist is 68. So we're going to write the measurements down. As I said, my waist was 68 centimeters and the length that I wanted was 98 centimeters. So I want to divide the skirt into 3 sections, so I'm just going to draw this out so you can visualize it. This is what the panels are going to look like, and what we're going to do is gather this panel to match this panel and this panel to match this panel. This will have a really nice effect. So for the top panel, this top measurement is going to be half of your waist measurement, and then you're going to add 15 centimeters, and that's the length of this top panel. So the next one down is going to be this answer times 1.5. So the answer to this was 49 centimeters, and then I'm going to times that by 1.5, and that's going to give me this measurement. This measurement is 74.5 centimeters. Then what we're going to do for the bottom panel is we're going to take this measurement and again times it by 1.5. So this time it's going to be 74.5 times by 1.5, which is equal to 112 centimeters. So the length of this is now 112 centimeters. The length of this is 74.5 centimeters. The length of this is 49 centimeters. In terms of the length, what I'm going to do is divide this number by 3. So for ease, I'm just going to say it's 33 centimeters when 98 is divided by 3. So 33 centimeters is the length of each panel. So this is 33, this is 33, and this is 33. However, for the bottom panel, we're going to want a bit more fabric for hemming. So I'm just going to add 2 centimeters. So 33 plus 2 centimeters is 35 centimeters. So the length of the bottom panel is now 35 centimeters. Now we have all our measurements, you need to ensure you have enough fabric to fit the panels. So for me, I need a fabric that is at least 240 centimeters long and 33 centimeters wide. So this is what the minimum amount of fabric I need is, and you can get your fabric from anywhere, of course, but I really recommend getting it from a friend, charity shop, eBay, or you can just use an old bed sheet or anything you have at home so that you're using secondhand materials, which is obviously the preferred option. So now we have all our measurements, we're going to move on to drawing out the pattern. So now we're ready to draw out the pattern. So I'm going to start by drawing the bottom panel, as this is the biggest one. So from my measurements, I'm going to be drawing 112 centimeters length and then 35 centimeters width. So I have a big sheet of paper rolled out. Now, I have used wrapping paper previously. If you have any old wrapping paper, that's a really, really good thing you have at home that's big enough to draw this out on. So I'm going to draw 112 centimeters this way and then 35 that way, and then join it up so it's one nice big rectangle. If you have a meter stick, you can use this, but if you don't, then you can definitely just use a ruler or also your tape measure. So this is what it looks like. Here is the rectangle that I've drawn, and this line across is 112, and it goes all the way to the end here. And then this line is 35. Now, when we want to sew this together, we need to add an extra amount of fabric because this is the exact measurement we want. So we need to add a bit extra for when we stitch it together, and we can leave this bit room. So we call this seam allowance, and usually I add 1 centimeter to each edge that I'm going to sew, which in this case is all of the edges. So I'm going to add an extra centimeter around each of these edges. Now, if you want to take this up maybe a little bit more seriously, then you can get something called a PatternMaster. And what this does is it makes adding the seam allowance really, really easy. However, for the purpose of easiness, and most people will have a ruler at home, I'm going to use a ruler to show you how to do it. So as I said, we're going to be adding 1 centimeter. So I'm just going to draw out 1 centimeter outside all the way around and just kind of do like mini dashes, which I can then connect up later. So here is the seam allowance, it's 1 centimeter out that I've drawn. And basically, I'm just going to do this all the way around and then connect up the lines. And we need to make sure we're adding seam allowance on every panel that we're about to do. So now we've finished the first panel, we are going to be moving on to the second panel. In my case, the length is going to be 74.5 centimeters and the length again is going to be 33. I'm making sure to add seam allowance to this panel as well as the next one. I am now going to cut each of the panels out. Okay, so now we have all of our finished 3 pieces cut out. So this is the bottom panel, it's the biggest one. And then we have the middle panel. And then we also have the top panel. So now what we're going to do is start to label them all so we know what each of them is, and also learn how to correctly annotate patterns. this is them laid out, just in case you couldn't see before. So this is the top, the middle, and the bottom. And yours should look very similar to this. So now we've moved on to labelling the pattern. So the first thing that we're going to do when labelling the pattern is draw what's known as the grain line. The grain line is the direction that the fibres are woven in the fabric. So you use the grain line to decide the direction to cut the fabric. What I do is I think of the direction of the way I want the clothing to fall. In this case, I want it straight down, as we have our top panel at the top, middle, and then bottom. So this is the direction we want our fabric to sit in, so this is the direction we need to cut. We need to align it to the edge of the fabric, in which case this is the edge. So I'm just going to make a dot where those edges are, so that would be here and here. This pattern is a really good example to use for this, as it's all straight edges, which means that you can use it as a guide to draw. So I'm now going to draw those in. We also draw little arrows at the ends of each line to show this is the direction that we're going to be cutting in. Then we write grain line down the side so it's nice and clear to whoever uses this pattern. The next thing that we're going to do when labelling a pattern is write down what we're actually making. So in this case, this is a maxi skirt, so we're going to write 3-tiered maxi skirt. And then we're going to write the size. So in this case, the skirt is a size 6, so you can write whatever size you usually are. And then we're going to write the piece number. So when I mean the piece number, I mean how many pattern pieces are in the whole of this garment. So in this case, there's going to be 3, because we have a top panel, a middle panel, and a bottom panel. So I'm currently working on the bottom panel, which means this is piece 3 out of 3. And this is how we write it. We can also specify that it's a bottom panel piece, so I'm just going to write that down too, and this just makes it really clear. I know we wrote piece 3 out of 3, but it just really consolidates it so there's no confusion that this is the bottom panel, and it's the 3rd pattern piece to make the garment. The last thing that we're going to do when labelling the pattern is specify how many pieces we want cut out, whether it's in lining or out of fabric. So in this case, we want to cut 2 panels, the front and the back, and we won't need a lining, we just need 2 out of fabric panels, and this is called the self fabric. So you have a lining and a self fabric. The lining fabric goes inside a garment against your skin, and then the self fabric is the one on the outside, which is the one everybody else can see. So because we need a front and a back here, we're going to write cut times 2 self. Now you've labelled your... So now we've labelled the bottom panel, I'm going to label the other 2 panels in the exact same way, and then I'll show you once I've done it. So I finished labelling the patterns at the moment, and this is them on the table. So I showed you the bottom one, but here is the middle one, and then here is the top one. I also drew a line 4 centimeters down from this line, and this is going to be our waistband on the top panel. You can decide however big you want your waistband, but I quite like to have a 3 centimeter elastic in here, so that's how big I made mine. The next step is to draw on how much we want to gather up each of these seams so that we can create a nice ruffly effect on the skirt. So let's go and work that out now. So now we're going to work out the gathering, and the way we're going to do this is we're basically going to make this length match this length and this length match this length. So the way we're going to do that is, for easy demonstration purposes, I'm going to draw this down. So basically we want to get rid of this section and this section, and the way we're going to do that is simply by gathering this to this measurement. So this is going to be gathered to 74.5 centimeters. This stays the same, this one stays the same, and then this one also gets gathered to this measurement. So this is going to get gathered to 49 centimeters. And then the last seam that we're going to be gathering is the top seam, and this is going to be gathered to 34, as this is half of my waist measurement, which is 68. So these are all the seams that need to be gathered, and then these two can be left as they will naturally gather. So now we need to draw this onto our pattern pieces, so let's go. So after we've drawn our wiggly line, which represents a gather, we're going to physically write gather to and the measurement we want. In this case, I'm working on the bottom panel right now, so this is going to be 74.5 centimeters. We then draw an arrow either side, and this just demonstrates that the gather is coming from the entire length of this seam. So I've now done this on the second panel, and again I did the little wiggly line straight across where I needed it to be, and then I made a note to gather to 49 centimeters and I did the arrows. This is on the middle panel and it is the top seam, as this will match up then with this seam once it is gathered. For the top panel, we didn't actually need to gather anything because the elastic in the waistband will naturally gather this. So I've just made a note for the elastic to be 68 centimeters, as that is what my waist measurement is. So the next step is the final step in this pattern making process, and it is to draw the notches. So as you can see, this is where I made the gathering notes, but we actually need to take these measurements for the notches too. So a notch is basically a tiny little cut in the pattern, and then you cut it out of the fabric too. And basically it just makes it super easy for you to match up exactly where you need to be matching up. So if you see a cut and there's another cut that's the same, you know they're meant to be matched. And yeah, it just makes it a super easy process for you when you're sewing. So that's what we're going to do now, so we know where the gathers are meant to be matching. So what I've done here is I've taken this top seam, So what I've done here is I've taken this top panel measurement, 49, and I've divided it by 4 so I can put 4 notches in, and it's given me this measurement. I've then done the same thing for the middle panel and the bottom panel, and I now have my 3 measurements. So, for example, I will start on the top panel to demonstrate. So here is our top panel, and we need to be making a notch every 12.25 centimeters. So it'll probably be around here, here, and here. So I'm going to go and measure them now and do them properly, and then we can do the same with the middle panel and the bottom panel. So the way we do a notch is we just make tiny incision either side to make a little triangle at the point you just measured. So it will look something like this. And then we do that to all the points that we just marked. And there we go. Those are all of the notches that have been put in. And as you can see, it's these tiny little triangular incisions. I'm now going to do that to the other 2 pieces, and then we have finished. So I have now added the notches to all edges of the panels. So this is the completed patterns. I'll show you a close-up of each of their notes. And well done. That is the pattern complete, and we are now ready to cut out the fabric. Thanks for watching this video. I hope that you have your pattern now ready to move on to the 4th video, in which we're going to cut out our fabric.